Hey everyone, today we're ranking all 25 killers from least to most fun to play against as Survivor. We're gonna have 5 tiers for this. Almost always boring to face, mostly boring to face, fun half the time, mostly fun to face, and finally, almost guaranteed fun. This is of course going to be highly subjective, so if you disagree, please do drop a comment on who your favorite killer to face is down below. Let's get into it. Okay, so starting off with the almost always boring to face tier. Freddy is the most boring thing this game has. He's not even OP anymore, he's just unbelievably dull to face. When I face a Freddy now, I don't get annoyed because his power is OP, I just get annoyed because I know the game will be boring. I can't even exactly pin what it is, I just don't like facing him. Everything about Freddy games feels so sluggish. What with the duller colors from the dream world, and the general nerfs it applies to you, the slowdown of his power on loops, his ability to teleport, his hits that never seem like they should hit, and the large amount of pallet drops and W keying there is when you face him. Yeah, not my thing. Moving on. Hag was pretty much made to camp, and as a result, she's not particularly fun to play against. A good Hag is miserable, and a bad one will generally hook someone and then camp them with 10 traps for the rest of the game. There's sometimes an in-between, but my experience with 95% of Hags has been a pretty bad one. One thing I will say is a positive for Hag is that if she does camp you, it feels really great if you manage to escape. So there's that, I guess. She's a little higher than Freddy, as I at least feel somewhat engaged when I face her, and not literally just sitting there bored out of my mind. Trickster is a character I do not have fun against, and since his buff, I've personally had even less fun against. I hate his knives, they're really boring. When he's barraging them, it just feels like there is very little you can do, and I really hate that, because they can absolutely shred your health now if you're not careful. I think there's something about getting constantly riddled with knives that feels quite demoralizing. The upside to Trickster, and the best part about countering him by dodging and using tiles as a defense, is when you survive. It does feel pretty rewarding. Most of the time though, you're just spammed into a corner until you're injured, spammed again, and then you're downed. I don't find him fun to play against personally. Okay, on to mostly boring to face. Clown has the classic problem of not being particularly fun in chase. Being slow is not enjoyable as a survivor, and the focus of Clown's power is to slow you down on loops, and then occasionally speed himself up. Not only this, but he restricts your visibility, which again is just not a very fun thing to play against. The ability to counter Clown feels like it mostly comes down to him lacking map control, and less to do with you as a survivor actually doing anything, which feels bad. With this said, I think Clown's lack of strength means you will often beat him, which is nice, but sometimes it can feel like a bit of a shallow victory given his downsides. Spirit has long been known for her little amount of counterplay. In the upcoming mid-chapter though, she's receiving some, where you can get a general idea of where she is and when she is phasing. So she has more counterplay now, sure, but I still don't think she's gonna be that fun to face. Unless you're in a hyper-focused pro-gamer mood and you want to have your eyes constantly fixed on the ground looking for dust and parting grass. It's definitely an improvement to what she was like before, but I still think she's going to be quite boring to play against, and there will still be a ton of moments where her power is going to feel unfair. But again, pre-nerf she would have probably been last, so it's definitely an improvement for her, and I'm sure the more I face her, the more bearable it'll be. Twins are a character I don't really want to rank so low, because I do quite enjoy playing them, and I think they have the potential to be fun. However, in live servers, I've genuinely encountered the twins probably about 5 times since they've released. The last time I remember facing them was back in July, when I did my 100 games of DBD video. These two just don't get played, and the very few who I've happened to face who play them have basically fallen into that twin stereotype of just slugging the whole game and using the two characters to camp people. Their redemption comes in the form of Victor being quite fun to dodge and then kick when you manage to dodge, and also having the opportunity to have some fairly interesting chases on certain loops. Trapper I find mostly boring, and I think it's because generally it just doesn't feel too great to get trapped by him. It's great when you play him, but against him it's just kind of annoying. There's also a constant anxiety hanging over you against Trapper, where you tend to avoid windows just in case there's a trap behind one. I feel like it creates this very unnatural flow to gameplay that can be quite frustrating to play. Many of the good traps that'll catch you often aren't even visible a lot of the time. If they're hidden in grass or behind a vault or both, you probably won't see it, so when you do get trapped, it's just annoying more than anything else I find. I think Trapper's redeeming factor is that a lot of the time he's basically just an M1 killer. meaning if you know you're in a safe, untrapped area, you basically get to have a very bare bones vanilla chase. It can also feel quite rewarding when you manage to find and deactivate a trap, potentially saving a teammate. Fun to play, but not so fun to face for me. Wraith is a character I used to quite like facing, but as I find myself going against him more and more, the less I find myself having fun. His power I think is quite unfun due to the loop of cloak, uncloak hit, cloak, uncloak hit. Due to the extra speed he gets after uncloaking, there's not much you can do aside drop a pallet, especially if the Wraith decides to cut you off or block a window. I feel like playing against him is basically just doing your best and not let him get near enough while cloaked, and when he is cloaked, it doesn't even feel like a proper chase, it feels far too passive. You can see him there following you, but it's not really a chase. When out of his cloak, he's basically just an M1 only killer, and you know, those chases are generally fun. I also find his stealth aspect isn't so great honestly, as he makes quite loud sounds as he approaches you, although when he does come by surprise, it can be quite enjoyable. Bubba is a character that's largely boring to face because many Bubba players do fall into that stereotype of being campers, I've found. I think Bubba's chainsaw sweep can be fun in some situations, where there's a chance to make a narrow escape. I think the gameplay against Bubba otherwise though is largely just pallet drop or die to the chainsaw, maybe vault in place of a pallet sometimes. I think a bit like Clown, his lack of strength kind of plays into his favor, because it feels like there's at least a bit of a chase and a back and forth, simply because he's not that strong of a character. Not too much of a Bubba population though, so it's kinda tricky to tell. Okay, now for the killers who are fun to face half the time. Nurse is going to start off our fun half the time tier. Nurses seem to either be absolute gods or completely new to her and just trying to understand how to use the blinks. It really doesn't seem like there's a middle ground. There are a few select games I've had against quite average nurse players, which were honestly incredibly fun. Dodging nurse feels rewarding if the nurse is competent. This is why I'm putting her here. Even against those god tier players, if you even get one dodge, you feel pretty great. I think largely it comes down to the nurse getting steamrolled or the survivors getting steamrolled. Both have their moments, but neither are really the most fun either. Legion are one of the most middle of the road killers to me. I'm never really not having fun against a Legion, but I'm never all too excited either. There are good chases to be had, but there's also repetitive mending for 3 minutes straight as I struggle to finish a generator. Basically you can get relatively fun chases, and maybe have a chance or two to dodge them while they're in their power, but the mending side of things will always let them down. It's such a boring and passive action, especially when they hit and then run away. There's no interaction there really aside you crouching down and stitching your lungs back in. I broadly like facing them too, I just wish they had something aside mending as the main focus of their power for the survivor side. Myers is the best example of a killer that can either be one of the most fun killers to face or one of the least fun killers to face, and so I'm putting him right in the middle of this list. I find it depends on the mood you're in. If you're in the mood to just play and loop, do gens, the normal thing, then he's kinda boring, and he's gonna make you angry when he stalks you for 1 second and goes straight into tier 3 and insta-downs you. If you're in more of a casual or memey mood, you'll have fun. You'll enjoy the jump scares, the tier 3 will be scary and engaging, and the whole Myers vibe will be exciting to play against. That's what I find personally. Let me know what you think of Myers. I think he's quite an interesting character who can be both very fun or very boring. Ghostface has actually shrunk on me. His fun has shrunk. I don't find him as fun as I used to. When facing Ghostface, I like having those jump scare moments, and I like sitting on a gen only to hear that exposed status sound burst my ears. I enjoy those moments that get the heart going. However, I don't like getting 99'd and insta-downed as soon as I start a chase, or staring at him for half a decade only for his Night Shroud to remain. His reveal mechanics are still really bad. When his mechanics do work, he's actually quite fun to face. I love those moments when you're on a gen and you see him just peeking at you from around a distant corner, and then in a panic you try and alert your teammate on the same gen to move, only for them to become exposed and then jump in panic. I love those moments. I think I find the inconsistency of Ghostface to be the part that lets him down and can make facing him frustrating, often to the extent that it outweighs those fun moments. Nemesis to me is carried by his zombies for fun moments. The zombies are so much fun and can make for some great interactions, and generally they aren't that annoying, I find. They just add this fun little bit of randomness to gameplay, not that it needs any more randomness. randomness, but hey. Nemesis is okay too, I guess. I don't particularly like the inconsistency of his tentacle, and the general strategy against him being the pressing of your W key. But hey, he's not that bad, and the zombies add in enough spice to make the games fun. I kinda wish there was more to the infection mechanic, because it's kinda just blue coffee liquid, and that's it. Yeah, Nemesis is very middle of the road. Fun sometimes, boring others, kinda killer. Cenobite is a tough one to rank, but I think I've come to the conclusion that he's in this tier of 50-50. It can go either way, fun or boring. First off, I love the chain mechanic, and I think dodging the chains is fun. I also enjoy the interaction with the box, and I quite like the chain hunts. Even as a survivor, I like how punishing they are, to be honest. It keeps you on your toes. My dislike comes in the form of a Cenobite with really good add-ons, who uses his power to trap you whilst you're a couple feet away, so there's no chance to dodge the chain. It's more effective for them, so you can't really blame them, but man is it boring. I wish there was more play surrounding long-range shots and dodging chains, instead of those close-quarter moments where you feel helpless. That's the deal breaker for me personally. It's such a bad feeling to be on a loop, and you're just stuck completely and utterly helpless as Cenobite walks towards you. Doctor has actually kind of grown on me. I used to really hate facing him, but the more I do face him, I don't mind it so much. I think as long as you can keep your madness under control and keep your timings right when dropping pallets and avoiding shocks, he's pretty fun to face. I somewhat enjoy the whole idea of not being able to hide from him, with the constant screams keeping you on your toes, and madness acting as a sort of distortion effect where the trial can become hectic and chaotic even when you're just healing on the other side of the map to the killer. There's a certain amount of intensity to facing Doctor, like those scary moments where you're trapped in tier 3 madness and need to save a teammate, but you just keep missing the skill checks. I agree he can definitely be annoying, no doubt, especially if they use an impossible skill check build or just stack slowdowns. I think that's his downside, is that half the time the Doctor's playing normally and it's pretty fun, and the other times they have a super mean build and it's just an absolute nightmare. Doctor kind of falls into that place of being somewhat fun to face simply because normal chases remain largely intact against him. The shock disrupts them, but the general looping loop remains. Okay, so on to the mostly fun to face tier. Okay, so starting this tier off, don't hate me, Deathslinger. Huh? Who said that? Yeah, Deathslinger. I'm sorry, okay? I actually like playing against him. I really don't think he's that bad. I like dodging the chains. I like the interactions where you help your teammates out by body blocking. I like the fear I get from a good slinger trying to shoot me through a tight angle. I like facing him. I'm sorry. You know, I like facing Cowboy Spearman. And I think he totally does have counterplay in the form of baiting shots and blocking chains or using the environment to help you out. Is it always effective? No, but I find it fun. Yep, alright, moving on. Okay, next up. Oh no. Next up is Executioner. Yeah, I really like facing him too. I've always loved the amount of stuff that Pyramid Head has in his kit, and how much of it directly interacts with the survivor and isn't just for him. The trails he places are fun to sneak around and equally avoid whilst in chase. I like those points in chase where you have to decide to either go through the trail or avoid it and maybe take a hit. I like his punishment of the damned attack and how it goes through walls, and you have this brief second to see where it's going on the floor to dodge it. Finally, I like the variation of the cage from the hooks, and the ever-lingering dread of getting moried, and so trying to avoid those trails at all costs. Yeah, I just enjoy facing him. I feel there's so many things to interact with that have these, like, mini consequences on gameplay, which I think is quite exciting. You know, you run through a trail in the first minute, and then the same trail and it tormenting you is what leads to you eventually getting moried. I just love those little preventable things where you have to make a choice that seems small at the time. Pig is a character I really like to face, and I like facing her even more because she's barely ever played. When I face a pig, I think, yay, a pig player. Pigs are fun to me because of the intensity of the bear traps. There's also cool play interactions you can have with the ambush and dodging it, and then in general her ability to be stealthy but not too stealthy is quite fun. Her traps can be quite frustrating sometimes, but with her upcoming mid-chapter changes, I think she's going to be even more fun to face. I find chases against Pig are pretty fun, especially when that pig is using everything in their arsenal like the stealth and the ambush to their advantage. Again, my only gripe being that the traps can sometimes sometimes be frustrating, and in general Pig can feel a little too weak in comparison to survivors sometimes. Blight is pretty fun to face due to his speed and the way he moves through bouncing off of the environment. Knowing how to read a Blight and predict where they're going to try and cut you off or catch you out is a lot of fun and quite rewarding. The speed of Blight is something that is interesting to play against, as sure he's speedy, but the way he runs is also quite linear and generally predictable once he's landed that bounce. I like facing this killer because you can beat them by looking at them and trying to pick up on visual cues. There are also his short cooldowns after rushing for you to get a breather, and a small reward almost for surviving his rushes. I love the speed, I love both sides having to study the other's movements, and I generally find the character fun to interact with. Demogorgon is one of the most balanced killers in the game, if not the most balanced killer, and so is here at the end of our mostly fun tier. I have nothing bad to say about Demo really. It's fun to be in chase with, its shred has good cues, and is quite easy to dodge but can be pretty scary if you're not careful, and its portals also provide potential for jump scare or shock moments. Overall, I am always very content facing Demogorgon, and I have nothing bad to say really. Demo is very balanced, but maybe not the most thrilling of characters to face, which is why it's not going quite up into the top tier. Some games against it can feel a little dull. Okay, on to the almost guaranteed fun tier. Plague is a character I used to hate facing. She may have even been my least favorite character to face, mainly for the fact that healing just went right out the window basically. But I like facing her now. I find Plague to be quite interesting and a nice change of pace from most gameplay. It almost feels like a completely different game when you go against a Plague, because her goals are different almost. She has to infect and then chase. So you get these two stages generally where you have to dodge the sick projectile, then go into a regular chase. It feels like a kind of best of both worlds. The green sick can't fully kill you, which is nice, but it does still have that threat of injuring you, and then getting immediately smacked. It's stunted to injuring, but it can be deadly if used right. I like that a lot. There's a fear and caution element to it, where a bad choice can lead to a dire situation, possibly to the extent of an insta-down if you're not careful. I think that's great design. One thing that's great about Plague is the decision between being injured and being sick, or the alternative of giving her red vomit. It's a tough call, and I think a fun one in each game it happens. Sometimes the team remains sick, other times they all cleanse immediately. It's a nice variation. So yeah, Plague is great, but I do still kind of hate that I can't heal a lot of the time, because I do really like my heal builds. Huntress is such a simple character and one that has really stood the test of time in terms of the type of gameplay you can have when facing her. She's definitely the most fun ranged killer in my opinion, having quite an interactive attack mechanic with her hatchets. She makes a sound as she winds them up, they take a while to move through the air, and they're only as precise as the person wielding them, so she's almost always fun to me. It feels fair and I feel good when I dodge a hatchet, and generally hatchets that do hit me, I think, good job, Huntress. The hitboxes for hatchets have always been pretty janky, but to be fair, they're equally janky for both the Survivor and the Huntress, so it weirdly evens out. Not much to say, all-round good killer to face, who mixes chases up but doesn't completely destroy the game's natural flow. Hillbilly has always been a really fun character to face in my opinion, which is kinda weird honestly, as generally I think insta-down killers can feel quite unfun and punishing. With Hillbilly it feels there's the threat of the insta-down looming over you, but there's actually a lot you can do to counter or escape it. Some loops favor Hillbilly, others favor you. It feels quite balanced honestly. It's even better to face Hillbillies who are good as well, because they can be truly scary. Facing down a good Hillbilly is rough, but managing to get some outplays and dodge their chainsaw sprints also feels very rewarding. For an insta-down killer, I think Hillbilly is very well designed, making you feel hopeful even though in just a second it can all be over. Oni is a character I am quite biased towards, but he's my favorite to play against. I find he has the best balance of ups and downs, enough counterplay, but also enough power to make you fear him somewhat. Oni is a lot like Hillbilly in that he has that potential to down you very quickly, and so he keeps you on your toes. I like Oni more I think because he also has a decent amount of time without his power too. This means you get a balance of regular chases and then power chases. I think Oni is quite a dynamic character, and is quite balanced. It always feels like there's a fluctuation of power between the survivor and killer side throughout the match. Again, maybe I'm just biased because I like Oni so much, but I personally love facing him. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and be sure to drop your own favorite killers to face down below. Thanks, and goodbye.